Well, Christmas is in a few days, which means that you know what your Christian friends might be doing, and you also know that you're probably heading to the movies and to a Chinese restaurant. But you might not know why. Well, you might think that Jews traditionally eat Chinese food on Christmas Day because those are the only restaurants that are open. Not true. True in some parts of town. We certainly know the Chinese restaurants that are open. In fact, they say it's their busiest day, Christmas Day, thanks to our people. But you might not know the history, and I want to share some of the history that I've learned from Rabbi Joshua Plout, who wrote a book called The Kosher Christmas. Worth reading. Interesting. And one of the things he talks about is the fact that many of the Jews that are our originators here in this country came to Ellis Island, and they came to the Lower East Side of New York, Manhattan, and you know that they lived there. They were the outsiders. They were the other. They didn't feel like they belonged. Why did they come here? They came mostly in the late 1800s because of pogroms, religious persecution, being persecuted simply because they were Jewish, and in many cases being persecuted under the cross as a sign of church persecution, Christian persecution, particularly the Orthodox churches of the East. So they left Russia and the Pale of Russia, Eastern Europe, and they came here in search of a better future, and they found it, including Chinese food. That always makes for a better future. Well, why didn't they eat Italian food, for instance, if they were in the Lower East Side of Manhattan? Well, one of the reasons given in the book is because they didn't feel as comfortable in a church-oriented culture where they would find symbols of church in the restaurants, as they often did. They also would find pork products not disguised, but blatantly on the menu and on plates, which was uncomfortable for most European Jews, even if they weren't Orthodox. They would also find something, and you can probably see where I'm leading. They would find in Italian restaurants overt mixing of milk and meat, so cheese, sauces, etc., combined with meat. So that wasn't a good fit. But what did they find in the Chinese restaurants? Well, they found an other. This was their experience as being the other, an outsider, marginalized community. But they found a way of coalescing, so to speak, around a tradition that on those days we go to the Chinese restaurants. Why? Well, they had dumplings. Dumplings or dim sum, folded wrappers, soy paper, that reminded Jewish people very much of kreplach, of dumplings that they had in Eastern Europe. They also found that the treif foods, the unkosher foods, weren't laid out on the plate in a slab the way they would be in other cultures' traditions. So they would be disguised, they would be fried, they would be put inside a wrapper, a wonton. So this became a comfort food and a comfortable food for many American Jews coming into this country, as it still remains today. But you might say, well, what about the Orthodox Jews? What did they do? What do Orthodox rabbis do on days when non-Orthodox rabbis are eating Chinese food? Well, there are many, many Orthodox Chinese restaurants for this particular reason. Because first of all, they know, the owners know, that it will be their busiest day of the entire year. They also know that they'll get patronage throughout the year. We eat all kinds of food. And of course, what you'd find in those kosher Chinese restaurants is traditional Chinese food, missing the pork, missing the unkosher meat, missing the shrimp and all those things. Anyway, I wanted to give you a little sense of why you might be looking up your favorite Chinese restaurant or looking on Yelp to see who is open on Christmas Day. Enjoy.